we'll be discussing the budget later, so I want to raise on the order of business the possibility of having the Minister for Foreign Affairs at Taoiseach in here to discuss one aspect of Brexit which I think is of huge significance. Firstly, today's revelation in the Spectator magazine of what is really going on in the minds of Dominic Cummings deserves close scrutiny. It shows that what I said here last week is entirely true, that they have been gunning for a no-deal exit, and they're entirely preoccupied with the blame game in which Ireland is going to take the brunt of the criticism. But the point I want to make about Brexit is a slightly different one. It's this, that we have been for 30 years resting in the shadow of the United Kingdom in relation to EU matters. The amount of scrutiny, the amount of work that's put into developing EU policies, looking at directives and regulations in advance, considering the impact of proposals coming from the Commission that has taken place traditionally in the British system, and not least in the parliamentary system in Westminster, with the House of Lords European Committee being a really excellent analytical body. All of that work is now going to cease. And our government is simply not prepared to take up the slack. We don't have the minds sitting at desks analysing what is happening in Europe. It was so easy to lift the phone and ask those intelligent people in Whitehall and in Westminster to give us a heads-up of what the implications of various European measures would be for a common law country such as Ireland or England. And we were living effectively off the back of the British establishment in our dealings with Europe. And what I want to say is this: I don't believe that we have tooled up, so to speak, for being on our own in Europe and to replace the huge intellectual and political analysis that went on in Britain for the last 20, 30 years on every legislative and policy development issue in Europe. We've been living on borrowed time. We need, at a governmental level, and particularly at a parliamentary level, we do nothing in Leinster House. It's been refurbished, but nothing happens of significance in relation to analysing European legislation or interacting with the European Parliament. Nothing happens in this House on that front. We don't look at what is being cooked up in Brussels. We pay no attention to it. And let's be honest about it. That must end. But much more serious, at governmental level and at analysis level, we need to get our third-level institutions, we need to get our departments, we need to get all our semi-state bodies playing an entirely different game, playing a professional game. They're not in minor league hurling anymore. They're going to be our only defence and our only way of interacting with the European system from now on. And in particular, I think that we're going to need somehow to change our whole structure of government so that the Minister for European Affairs is a full cabinet member and has a very substantial department whose job it is to regulate and to analyse our relationship with the European Union. And finally, I'm not saying this, by the way, critically of you, Leader, or of your government. I'm just saying that every government has been living off the backs of British effort for a long, long time. And we are going to have to up our game. It's not just in the Rugby World Cup we're going to have to up our game. It's for the long term, and it's in Europe.
Thank you, Senator. Senator Maria